might either way shape the outcome?
Yeah, so the full spec version is the one that we had last year, the one that elected Ishiba, and that's one in which the rank and file get to vote. And there's about 1 million LDP members right now, and they all cast their ballots. They all get sent ballots in the mail. They cast their ballots, and they're translated proportionally into the same number of votes that the LDP diet members have. So that's the full spec version. The abridged version, the sort of, the quicker version, can take place via a plenary session of people in both houses of the Diet who are LDP politicians. And in that instance, each LDP politician, there's 295 right now, they have 1 vote each. And the prefectural chapters, of which there are 47, so the party has 47 prefectural chapters around the country, they all get 3 votes each. And it's also a runoff. So the election rules do differ across the 2 full spec versus abridged versions. But as the former commentator said, the abridged version gives more weight to diet members' votes. And so the full spec version, all the party members get to vote, and in the second, they don't have the same weight. And so that could lead to the full spec version does prioritise someone with a lot of broad support throughout the country. So I'm not sure exactly how. I don't think Prime Minister has announced which one is going to take place, but there are some slight differences there.
Speaking of support, regardless of who the contender is, what is your sense of how factions within the LDP might provide that sort of support, including Taro Aso's faction, for example?
Yeah, so the reason that we saw such a crowded field last year with 9 contenders, and we're likely to see sort of quite a few people this year, is that factions have really, they've been substantially weakened. So they've basically been dissolved last year in response to the slush fund scandal. So I see there are sort of 2 groups that remain, but I don't see them as having a lot of power actually in this vote. I think it's likely that people are going to vote according to who they think should become the party leader. However, if you are a faction leader, you have a sort of an incentive to sort of argue that you played a role in the election of this person because you want that person to help you and to help you please your faction members and pass policies that you want after the election. But I don't see factions as playing a big role in this election at all. There could be some, maybe in the runoff and the convincing people to change who they voted for it if there is a runoff. In those scenarios, the 2 remaining groups might play a role. But in general, I think we're going to see a lot of contenders, and people will probably vote according to who they think can sort of take the party ahead and try to recoup some of its support that it's lost in these 2 previous elections.
Amy Katalinak, really good to have you with us, Associate Professor of Politics at New York University, as we continue to follow the fallout from the resignation of Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. Take a look at how U.S. futures are trading at the moment. We're seeing upside after stocks fell on the Friday session. We had that data showing sharp cooling in the jobs market, which also led to treasuries rising. That flight to safety, but also investors pricing in Fed cuts on that soft labor data. We continue to watch the bond markets very closely. Given what's happening here in Japan, we have seen global yields spike higher with JGB yields when there's change here in the country. Take a look at Brent crude, very important because we saw the production boost coming from OPEC+. More ahead on the Asia trade. This is Bloomberg.
IBM is over 114 years old. Transformation, innovation is who we are. We created the mainframe, we created the PC. With AI, we truly are transforming scale for the enterprise. In this era of AI, we are bringing to life our own Client Zero story of transforming IBM with extreme productivity enabled by AI technology. The results that we've achieved within IBM can be replicated across the world.
The most challenging part of working in IT at IBM is the breadth of problems.
Finding the person that had the information that we needed.
We had an article, we had a process we walked people through, and we expected them to help themselves.
We asked ourselves, what if we upended this and created a digital assistant that would do that for them? We created Ask IT, an AI assistant that's now answering 80% of IBMers' requests for IT support.
I'm not just fixing people's problems, I'm actually building something that's worth talking about outside the company.
According to an IBM survey of over 2,000 CEOs worldwide, only 25% of their AI initiatives are delivering their expected ROI. As Client Zero, AI is an incredible opportunity for us to really reimagine how we run the IBM operations, to really bring to life AI across every area of our company. In the past 2 years, we've delivered a significant ROI. If we can do it for IBM, we can absolutely do it for any client in any industry.
A lot of my time was just spent physically searching for things.
Maybe you have some questions around travel and expense.
Benefits, compensation.
Those take a lot of time.
But we decided to create a one-stop shop AI solution that would become the interface for all employee and manager interactions with HR. Last year, Ask HR had a 94% containment rate. It was all done by AI.
I came to HR with the goal of being able to help people, and I'm definitely able to do that now.
We're going to look at that whole situation. We have a lot of industries that we don't have anymore, and we're going to have to train people. And the way you train people is bring people in that know what they're doing and let them stay for a little while and help. So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia. And we heard about it yesterday. At the same time, ICE was doing right because they were here illegally. But we do have to work something out where we bring in experts so that our people can be trained so that they can do it themselves. Does that make sense? Right?
Is it straining the relationship with Korea at all?
No, we have a great relationship with South Korea. Really good relationship. You know, we just made a trade deal. But I'm going to look at it because I understand exactly what they're saying.
So page 6 crowns you the king of the U.S. Open. They put out all these old pictures through the years of U.S. Open. What does it mean for you to go back after going for so many decades, growing up in Queens? Now you're going back as the president in a different capacity.
Well, I loved it. First of all, the two players have unbelievable talent. It just seemed that they hit the ball harder than I've ever seen before. Incredible talent. And I enjoyed it. And I used to go all the time, but, you know, lately it's a little bit more difficult to go. I really enjoyed it. They were really nice. The fans were really nice. I didn't know what to expect. Usually you would say that would be a somewhat progressive, as they say nowadays, crowd. Sometimes call it liberal, but we'll use the word they like to use, progressive. But they were great. The fans were great.
Back on Russia. Russia had a pretty big attack on Ukraine over the weekend.
I know all about it.
You have always said how good your relationship is with President Putin, but he's not really giving you anything that you want. Is that making you less trustful of him?
Well, nobody was tougher in Russia than me. That has to do with the pipeline, as you know, Nord Stream 2 and lots of other things. But I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy about the whole situation. You know, it's interesting. It doesn't affect us because it's not our soldiers. But they're losing now. I used to tell you 5,000. They're losing 7,000 between Ukraine and Russia, 7,000 soldiers every single week. It's such a horrible waste of humanity. So, no, I am not thrilled with what's happening there, I will tell you. I think it's going to get settled. So I settled 7 wars. This, I would have said, would have been maybe the easiest one to settle of all. But with war, you never know what you're getting. But we're going to get it. I believe we're going to get it settled. But I am not happy with them. I'm not happy with anything having to do with that war. It's just such a waste of great humanity.
The greatest obstacle to a peace deal in Ukraine?
Say it?
As of right now, what do you think is the greatest obstacle to a peace deal?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, we have some very interesting discussions. You know, Europe, certain European leaders are coming over to our country on Monday or Tuesday, and individually. And I think we're going to get that settled. I think we're going to get it settled. We have to. You can't lose. You know, when they're losing 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers a week for no reason, you have to get it settled. Of all of the wars, whether it's the Congo and Rwanda, they said it was impossible to settle. You look at every one of it. I mean, every one of these wars were impossible. I got every one of them settled. So I think it's a tremendous scandal.
What do you think the media would say if you pardoned your kid their last day in office via an auto pin? Don't you think the media would go?
Well, I think it would have been a big story.
It would have been a big story.
Would have been. I like this guy.
Multiple times on a Charlotte subway. You've seen this video, and do you have any reaction to it?
Yeah, and where was the subway? Was where?
She was in Charlotte on a light train. She was stabbed multiple times by a...
Horrible. No, I haven't heard.
Okay.
When did this happen?
It happened in August, but the video just came out.
I see. Yeah, I see the video. I'll know all about it by tomorrow morning. Okay? Thank you.
Do you have plans for Chicago this week?
No, not really. Not really. We're going to go someplace. We're picking. Look, D.C. now is 100%. I don't want to say 100, but it's pretty close to 100% healthy, happy, thriving. It's a crime-free zone. You know that. You know you could go out to dinner tonight, Jeff. You could go out to dinner, and you most likely will not be harmed. You know that. You won't be beat to hell.
There's still some crime. There's still some crime.
Very little. And within a week, there will be nothing. Do you agree with me?
I feel much safer walking around. I can't fight them.
No, it's a safe place now. But
you've been talking a lot about Chicago, and there was
no. Chicago's been talking a lot. So, Chicago last week lost 9 people were killed, and 28 people were shot. The week before, it was 7 people were killed and 37 people were shot. The week before that, it was the same kind of number. Chicago is a very dangerous place, and we have a governor that doesn't care about crime. I guess we could solve Chicago very quickly, but we're going to make a decision as to over the next. When you look at what happened to D.C. in a short period of time, honestly, it's amazing. Over a period of 12 days, in other words, on the 12th day, we had the crime just about solved. And right now, people are walking down. They're going out right now to restaurants all over D.C., whereas if you go back a year ago or 6 months ago, nobody was going out. Nobody. We did it in 12 days. Now it's better than it was in 12 days. We'll make it even better, and then we're also going to clean it up. We're going to clean up the city. We're going to make some great improvements to the roads, to the medians, to all of the signs. You got signs that have been up for 30, 40 years. They're worn out. They look like hell. We're going to redo the signs. We're going to put up new signs. It's going to look beautiful. Within a 6-month period, it'll look really beautiful. But you have essentially a crime-free zone. I mean, here we are on a nice Sunday evening. If you'd like, it feels like Saturday, actually. If you like, you could go out and you could have dinner on me, but you wouldn't do that. But you could have dinner on me if you'd like. Go ahead. What else?
When do you plan to speak to President Putin next? And what
Very soon. Over the next couple of days. Look, we're going to get it done. The Russia-Ukraine situation, we're going to get it done. I have confidence we're going to get it done. Think of it. I got 7 done, all of which were impossible to do. If you look at any one of the 7, you know them. I don't have to go through them. Many of them were impossible. One was 31 years, 10 million people killed. One was 34 years with 8 million people killed. How about the Congo? They lost 9 million people, and it went on for years with Rwanda. All settled. Everybody happy. The one that I think, for me, the easiest, because of Putin, I thought that would have been, it's not turned out that way, but we're going to get it settled.
You brought him in to discuss the Gaza issue and help make peace in Gaza. What's some of the advice he's giving to you, and why did you bring him back in to work on this deal?
I think we're going to have a deal on Gaza very soon. It's a hell of a problem.
What gives you
Again, it's a problem we want to solve for the Middle East, for Israel, for everybody. But It's a problem we're going to get done. So they have hostages. It could be a little bit less than 20 because they tend to die, right? They tend to die. Even though they're young people largely, they're dying. Young people don't die. Young people stay alive. But with this whole thing, they tend to die. But we have, let's say, 20 people, and we have about 38 bodies. Bodies, meaning bodies.
Are you confident you can get them all released?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to get them all.
Did you see the turnover of the Japanese prime minister stepping down? Do you have any reaction to that?
No, I was surprised because I liked him, and he's just now stepping down. A little bit surprised. I found him to be a very nice man, actually. We dealt very well together.
Mr. President, the price of beef continues to rise and other items keep going up. Is there any way to address the cost of beef?
Yeah, once it kicks in, once our policies kick in, the price of beef will be going down, just like the price of eggs went down and the price of the grocery items went down. Beef will go down. It'll all go down. Energy has gone way down. The price of gasoline has gone really, I think you'll be hitting $2 very soon. And it was $4.50 a little while ago. So energy's gone way down. That brings everything else with it. But beef has gone, as you know, for other reasons. The price of beef has gone up a little bit. It'll be coming down.
Before you went to Alaska, in the Oval Office, you said that the First Lady expressed she wasn't too enamored with Putin. You said you came home, you said you spoke to Putin. She said, well, I left the village today. Has she expressed anything since you've come back?
No, the First Lady actually got along great with Putin,
right,
as I did. But, we're disappointed. Both of us are disappointed that this ridiculous war continues.
Are you proud to see her sending the letter that she sent?
Yeah, she is. And she's felt very strongly about the children. Yeah, feels very badly about it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Do you have plans to go to Japan and South Korea this fall?
What does that mean?
Or do you have plans to go to South Korea?
Maybe. We'll see. But it's going to be very interesting what comes out. I think we may have learned something because when they come here and there's nobody that can do what they're supposed to be doing and they bring people, those people can also teach our people. It's complicated stuff. And something very interesting could come out of that. Thank you, everybody.
President Trump there speaking on a range of issues, even reacting to Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba here in Japan resigning over the weekend, saying that he liked him and that they worked well together. Asked whether he would go to South Korea or Japan in the fall. He did not clarify that, but he mentioned how people coming to the United States should train Americans when it comes to doing their jobs. And that really in reference to what we saw also, that immigration raid at the EV battery plant run by Hyundai and also LG Energy Solutions. We have seen Hyundai Group stocks gaining ground this year, but of course this really puts into question the future of Hyundai's EV production plans across the United States. We have seen the release of 300 of South Korean citizens agreed by Korean officials and also U.S. officials, but President Trump saying that Korean workers in the plant were illegal, but that they do have a great relationship with South Korea, Averill.
Take a look at how Japanese assets are faring after the announcement of resignation of Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. We are seeing the yen weakening towards that 148.5 handle. And based on what the Chicago Nikkei futures are pointing to, we could see upside in Japanese stocks, maybe helped along by gains in some of these export-related names against the backdrop of what we're seeing in the yen. JGB is also the futures pointing to some gains. For more on the market action in Japan, let's bring in Bloomberg's MLive strategist, Mark Cranfield. So, Mark, looks like quite an interesting setup. Maybe we avoid that triple dip, given how the yen is faring. Might that help Japanese equities? Focus is on the JGBs. How much of a jolt are you expecting potentially?
JGB is probably more about the curve. You probably see steepening there. The investors will come to the quick conclusion that the Bank of Japan interest rate hike, which was a possibility for October, is likely to be off the table pretty quickly. It's going to be very hard Japan to proceed with a rate hike, given that they won't know who the new leader for Japan is, or they may know by the time of their meeting, but there's going to be several weeks of uncertainty. And so that will incline the Bank of Japan to push back further. So it doesn't look as though the yen is going to get any help from the Bank of Japan. That will keep inflation going in Japan for longer. That will hurt the long end of the Japanese curve. The short end will probably stay reasonably anchored. It's getting help from the US. The US now is looking towards a rate cut pretty quickly. And 50 basis points for the Federal Reserve will certainly be there. So people will be thinking there could be an even bigger cut that will help to keep short-end rates soft. And then when you think about what it means for Japanese equities, obviously longer the yen stays weak, that's got to be good for Japan stocks. And on the other side, they will expect whoever is the next leader in Japan that they'll want to get on with a bigger spending boost as soon as they possibly can. So that, again, is something that Japanese equities will feed off. So it's not surprising that the futures are pointing to a much stronger start here. And this may well be enough to trigger the topics going through the recent highs in August. We may see an extended run here for Japanese stocks, particularly as the global backdrop is pretty good. US stocks at pretty high levels as well. So that all helps to support Japan.
Mark, JGBs have been very consequential for global bond markets as well at a time when we continue to see the pressure on the long end. Fiscal concerns really a worldwide issue at this point. How does that factor in other data that we're getting from the U.S., like inflation numbers and, of course, the path of the Fed?
Well, certainly it would have been a lot more dramatic had we not had those job numbers last week. So now investors are much more certain that the Federal Reserve has what it takes to lower interest rates, possibly even by more than 25 basis points. So that the fact that treasuries are going to stay strong probably got even further to rally. That helps the whole G10 complex. So even if you get some weakness at the long end of the Japanese curve, the read across will not be as dramatic as if there was instability in other markets as well. That it's going to be absorbed by the good news coming out of the treasury market. So whether we see political chaos in France, more in the UK, Japan, all of that to some extent will be subdued in the markets because treasuries are by far the most important market. And if treasuries are looking good, that will take out some of the steam in what we see in other markets. So curve steepening is the easiest way for investors to play that. If they do think there's higher political risks outside of the United States, then of course that's what they can do. But we're probably not going to see the huge contagion that would have been possible had the US been in a more neutral position. The impact would have been a lot better, but it's not. It looks as though the Fed cut rates in September, but they may well have to follow up with further cuts before the end of the year. So that will help bond markets globally.
Mark, thanks so much for your insights. Bloomberg's MLife strategist, Mark Cranfield. Now let's bring in Candice Browning, Global Research Head at BofA, and she joins us from the BofA Securities Asia Pacific Conference in Hong Kong. She was also just in Tokyo last week. Candice, maybe let's start there out of Japan, because we are seeing futures pointing to some upside. What is your sense of, from your Tokyo trip, in terms of corporate governance reforms, maybe fiscal stimulus expectations, a cheaper Japanese currency that might fuel further Japanese stock gains?
So thank you very much. So when I was in Japan last week talking to investors, I guess if I had to sum up the overall feeling, it would be sort of that quote from Oliver Twist when the young boy says, "Please, sir, may I have some more?" So basically, I think that equity investors in particular really like the deflation story in Japan, and they really like the corporate reform story. And that corporate reform story seems to be, if anything, accelerating rather than decelerating. Now, over the weekend, we did have the surprising news about Prime Minister Ishiba, resigning. And I think that, that does have some very strong implications depending on, of course, who takes his place. But I think overall, the equity market, as long as the corporate reform story stays in place and the deflation story stays in place, I think the equity market will be absolutely fine. I think there's some questions in the bond market as it relates to what will the new leaders' policies be, regarding fiscal spending and monetary policy as well.